Good evening and welcome. As usual, as we let folks join the Zoom meeting, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. We're 1 minute early, so we got time. I call this meeting of the South Liberty School Board to order. This is a board workshop. We'll get started in just a moment. Are one of you or one of our student representatives interested in reading and addressing the land acknowledgement this evening? Okay, Director Greenherron.
South Whitby School District would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral homelands, originally known as Chikolche and Lushootseed, of the coastal Salish peoples, on the lands of the Lower Skagit, Tulalip, Swinomish, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Suquamish, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial, and have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude to the Indigenous people of this territory and for their enduring care and protection of the land in which we currently occupy and share through the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed by 82 tribes in Mukilteo on January 22nd, 1855.
Thank you very much. Director Jackson will not be joining us this evening. Director Johnson will be joining us via Zoom as soon as she's able. We do have a quorum, however, so we can begin before then, since it is indeed time. We have exactly one item on the agenda, which is our construction update. Thanks to Integris and Absher and everyone involved here for making the big trip across the Great Waters to join us. Before we get started on that, I want to just make a note on our public comment protocol. I don't know why that was so hard tonight. All comments must be in accordance with our policy 0002, which is our professional communications policy. We will be having points within the at the end of the presentation to have questions from both the board and members of the community. And we ask that you save your questions and comments until the end so we can get through the presentation, and then we will address questions at that point. At that time, we'll start with questions here from the board. I've got a couple from Director Jackson who sent them ahead to me to share them out and ask them of y'all, and then we'll go to the community after that, including those who are online. If you are online on the Zoom call and would like to make a public comment, please use the Q&A function to note your name and your location, general location, just Langley, Freeland, Clinton, whatever it might be, and then start typing up your comment. As soon as we get into the questions period, I'll take a look at those and read them out as we go along once we are in the questions period. That's all we've got here. I'm going to turn it over first to Dr. Clifford.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much, Director Williford. I just first want to thank the community for their support in this bond construction work. It was a long time coming and something that's really important for our students and for their the success of their learning environment and for our staff and our families and our community, because these are our community facilities. And so I want to thank our community so much for supporting us. I want to thank our families because they are flexible and supporting their students in being flexible. And I especially want to thank our staff and our students for their patience, their flexibility. We joked today, we had a presentation with the secondary staff, and we joked about their patience, although they may outwardly show patience, but sometimes not feel as much patience as they're demonstrating at this very beginning stage of this project, because it is a multi-year project. And so, but they are doing a great job and working really hard to just embrace the flexibility and embrace living in construction. I also want to thank so much our admin team, Mr. Field, Executive Director of Facilities and Operations. He's in every single meeting all the time, making sure that everything is right, including making sure that we have done our bond process for the funding and awards of the money, and then making sure that we are spending it wisely, and making sure that we're meeting the letter and the spirit of the law. But also from brick to, I don't have the right example, but or metaphor, but you are soup to, I'm going to stop. So anyways, all of our principals and school leaders, Patton, Phillips, Richards, and Coda, you are helping to keep the staff calm. You're helping to inform and address decisions, and not decisions, but process and progress, and making sure that we're ahead of the game to make sure that we are supporting staff in the next steps, in every single step of the way, and making sure that we're responding, because when we know sometimes when you're in it, it's different than what you prepared for. And so you have showed a extreme calm and a strong leadership in supporting your staff. And I also want to thank our new Director of Facilities, who has jumped right in and learned everything that he's needed to. And while supporting the bond project, is also supporting the levy work and making sure that the two are working in tandem. And that's incredible work by this whole internal team. And then Ms. McCarroll to making sure that we are on top of all the things that we need to be on top of, making sure that our communications are up to date, and just continually coordinating with us on all of the different aspects. You're kind of the heartbeat between and under and throughout the whole thing. So thank you so much. I just wanted to acknowledge this team today. They work hard. They have been working hard since the beginning. This project is extremely complex. It is extremely complex, more complex than most projects, for two reasons. We've got two sites going at the same time. We've got envelope, mechanical, and some interior things going on. And while we have planned for unanticipated things, this project is not, has many unanticipated things larger than what you could plan for. And so they have done their diligence and been creative and been flexible and agile and identifying how they could continue the work. The work has been moving forward since day one, how they can keep doing the work even in different circumstances. So when weather's coming up, they're planning around that and figuring out what work they can do when they can't do work on the outside. So they have been continually be reflecting and refining to make sure that we're still moving forward. I did want to ask, board, have any of you ever had a construction project at your home? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, my home was a construction project.
Yeah.
My dad was a independent contractor for 30 plus years. I've worked on him multi-year projects with him before. Yeah.
Okay. Did many of the projects, did any of them get completed on time?
I would say that every construction project, whether it is slated to take 15 minutes or 3 years, takes 1 year longer.
Okay, yeah. So I say that because I am so incredibly impressed with how our teams are, in light of some of the really unanticipated things that have been found and some of our infrastructure. They are still looking for ways to mitigate those timelines. Now, we acknowledge that we have to shift, and we acknowledge that there are going to be some times where we might be longer than we anticipated. We just know that. But sometimes, like when you're flying and you leave late, and the pilot makes up and gets you there on time still, they are working their hardest to do that. And I just want to acknowledge that. You're going to see 2 stages today. The first stage is the preparation stage. And this is something that many people have been a part of, but for people who are new, and it's also good to remind us, because after you've left something, you forget. So this is a quick review of the preparation stage. The preparation stage is the planning, the design, and the decisions. That started in 2023. You're not making decisions about the type of house you're building while you're building it. You do that in the preparation phase. We are now in the second phase is the construction phase. So this is the phase where we've done bids, we've got contractors, and we're building, we're doing the work. That's the phase that we're in now. And all of the work that's being done is based on the decisions that were made during the preparation phase and the scope of work that's been done in the preparation phase. There were core scope of work, and then there's some alternates. And the core work is being completed, and we budgeted for that. We budgeted for all of it, but in this economic environment right now, the landscape has changed. So we are completing core work, we're completing some of the alternates, and if we have budget at the end, we will do some more of the alternates. But we are able to, we have made sure that we are going to expend all the budget, and we are going to complete the projects that were planned to complete. So with that, we are in the construction phase, and I'm looking forward to doing a quick recap of how we got here and then showing you where we're going. And one last thing, you're going to see fall of 26 or fall of 27. That's when there's a general timeline on when things are going to start, not when they're ending. So you're going to see starts of when certain parts of the project are starting. And some of those projects might take 2 months. Parts might take 2 months. Some of them, they may start and they may take for the remainder of the year. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to hand it over. I've said enough. Handing over to the team now. Thanks.
But as we do that, I do want to welcome Director Johnson to the meeting. She joined in the midst of that. Welcome. Just to note for the record that she is here now.
Thank you, Director Rutherford.
While she's pulling that up, Christy has index cards and pens. So if you want to take notes throughout this, in case you have questions, please grab a note card and pen.
we need to be on mic for those who are listening online or watching the video later.
Okay, sorry. I'm Reagan Ketman. I'm the senior project manager for the construction side.
TJ Klinoski, also with Absher, senior project engineer.
John Prada with Absher. I'm the project superintendent.
So as we look back, green. Oh, apologies. So as we get started, I wanted to just hit on a couple items that were really critical to the bond planning process. Folks remember, it's 2026 now. It was November 7th, 2023. So there's been a lot of work that's happened over the last few years getting ready. And one of the things that has been a constant through the process have been the guiding principles. These guiding principles were developed early in the bond planning process, and they continue to be one of our touch points today as we go through and navigate all the prioritization that we go through the construction process. And just to remind everybody of what these are, we are always thinking about the fact that we are creating 21st century learning environments. We recognize that learning happens everywhere, and that is a huge benefit to our students. And we want to make sure that we capitalize on those opportunities, including during construction. We want to make sure that through the design that we're creating a welcoming identity for each of the schools, making sure that they reflect your values and also this sense of place. And so you'll see that come through as we talk through about the design. We want to make sure that everything is inclusive. And that is evidenced as we talk about everything from the playground at the elementary school through how you come into the building and how you navigate it throughout your daily experience. We want to be thinking about how do we create classrooms that support today's learning. We want to make sure that we have those quality learning environments. That means that we want to make sure that our students have warm, comfortable spaces. So we're going to be talking about building mechanical systems. We also want to be thinking about safety and wayfinding, and how do we make sure that as students and families come in and use these facilities, that they're easy to know where they belong and to make sure that we know who belongs. Both of those items are really critical. And every decision that we make, we're thinking about your operations and maintenance. We know this is a huge gift that the community has given to the school district with these projects, and we want to make sure that we're making wise investments that lower your long-term operations and maintenance cost. We're always thinking long-term as we think about the process that we're going through. I'm not going to walk you through all the meetings, but just know that there has been a long series of meetings, and those who've been following the process have taken the time to reflect upon those. But it included everything from touring your existing facilities and getting to know your conditions, as well as listening as much as we possibly can to all of your needs at the school and the community level. We also know that in order to create quality teaching and learning environments, we need to be responsive to all the building codes and requirements that come from the state. So a lot of components that come into thinking about improving those buildings involve things like the building systems. How do we make sure they resist earthquakes? Thinking about the quality of the envelope, making sure it meets the Clean Building Act and other requirements that we have for being a public school. As a part of the process, we went through and did detailed analysis of your existing conditions. I like to refer to this as the squint test. This is a summary document that we shared along the process, but similar to when you think about a stoplight. Green are conditions that are satisfactory. Yellow, those that are ones to watch. Red, those are poor and unsatisfactory and need attention. And so as I show you this is the North Elementary School, kind of looking at some of those conditions related to the building. And then we start looking at the that's the South Campus. Sorry about that. It's covering the text here with the Zoom thing. Looking at those components of the South Campus, And then looking closely at the middle school and the high school, it gives you at a glance how that building condition was before we began the process. And then as we start looking at your transportation facility, you start to see a lot more green on that facility. And if we were to line up all of these facilities, I think it's one thing to note, not only did we consider in the bond planning projects, which projects, what their building condition, but we also looked at where the learning was happening and focused our efforts at the high school, middle school, and at the elementary north campus. Even though there definitely are needs at the south campus, that's not the focus of where the learning is happening. And so the projects are focused in those arenas. So during the bond planning process, what were some of the things that were identified? There was definitely identification around making sure that we had clear separation of bus and student and parent drop off in the site circulation. There was a lot of conversation around what is that entry experience? How do we know where to go? How can we get some additional covered, sheltered area for students as they circulated around the facility? And a lot of considerations around safety and security. As you start looking at some of the building plan and thinking about some of those components, you see where we, at a high level, identified some of those areas that needed work on the first floor, and specifically looking at a need for additional office areas at the admin, which is the dark pink box that you see just below the admin area. There was a need to address the restrooms throughout the facility to make them not only inclusive, but also accessible, and to meet, a lot of them were just failing and needing to be updated. There was also additions for having clear entryway that was identified throughout the building as well. Which starts to, when you look at the detailed plans, the dark areas where the lines, those are the areas that we are actually doing the work as we look to today. Similarly, as you look at the second floor, those areas that needed to be addressed, we're thinking about offices, toilet rooms, how do we support the learning in more functional ways? I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because this is all prior to the bond passing. Similarly, needs were identified at the elementary school where we needed extended drop-off area. There was a need for thinking about the secure entranceway at the elementary school as well. Upgrades to the restroom spaces at the elementary level was also on the forefront of everyone's mind. Then as we continue in the design phase, I'm going to have Jeff take the mic for a minute.
All right, so at this point, the bond is passed and we have the project funded and we're moving into design. One of the things that we did is we kept the school community engaged. We had a design advisory team that was made up of staff, students, administrators, members of the school board, and members of the capital facility team. And we continued listening. We had set those big picture goals at the beginning. But here you could see we're taking that group around and we're looking at the school. We're hearing from the people that live it every day, as well as what some of the challenges and the aspirations are as we move through the process. And so as we continued through with that design advisory team, they not only reaffirmed a lot of what we had heard during the bond planning process, but there were a few new items that had come out of that as well. As we continue to examine priorities, such as the hazards on the middle school stair. And through working with that committee, as well as district leadership, we were really focused on prioritizing. As we continued to find out more about these projects, these priorities were really important to the team. We wanted to understand what was at the core at both facilities, and what were the things that we were hoping to bring in along the way as we continue to find out more about the buildings themselves, as well as getting more refined and detailed cost estimating as the process moved along. So there's been a number of these different versions posted as we've gone along through the district website all the way to the end of the process for both the middle high school and the elementary school. And those have been pretty widely shared. A lot of you have probably seen these posters. They've been around at community events. There's one in the hallway right out here so that you all can understand really what's happening, what the current scope of the project is and where those priorities lie. One of those things that we heard was the field surfacing. We spent a lot of conversations around this. This is really important to the community. We not only talked about it with the design advisory team, but we opened it up to the broader community as well. And right in this room, we brought in some experts and the community to hear concerns about athletic performance, about long-term sustainability and stormwater runoff. And we made sure that we were able to address those concerns for safety of students, as well as around understanding that the salmon estuary is a big important part of the site out there at the middle high school. So Rebecca already hit on a lot of the project scopes, but just a few additional ones so that everyone has a good picture of what we're building as we hand it off to the construction team here in a few minutes. Additionally, we're not only re-roofing the project, but we're providing an entire reskin of the building. We're really making sure that both from a building envelope perspective and as well as replacing the mechanical systems, that this facility is set up for the future, right? From maintenance and sustainability perspectives for performance. So that was definitely at the core of the project, and you've already started to see that work happening out there in the field. A lot of what's happening in this bond, you will not see when you walk into the building because it's the backbones of the systems and making sure that those are set up to extend the life of this building long into the future. In addition to those pieces, we're also, as we mentioned, resurfacing the turf, but also providing some additional site lighting for security out in the parking lots. And some of these core scopes of work too, they've got fringe benefits. One of the things that you'll see in the commons at the middle high school, that window system was failing badly. And through the replacement of that window system, we had to get into the structure of the building a little bit. So the commons will get a nice refresh in there in the Falcon's Nest, but all of that is sort of serving that core goal of making sure that the building envelope is set up for the long term. Just a little bit more detail on a few of these scopes of work. One of the things that we're looking that we're in construction for is security vestibules for the middle high school and the elementary school. So this is the existing plan that's under construction now. And one thing to note is that there's a single point of entry in there. And so in addressing security, here's the plan that's under construction. What you'll notice is there's still that point of entry out front, but the second set of doors remains locked during school hours and directs folks through the admin before they can gain access to the building. So that, and then in service of that, there's also some reconfiguration of the admin office to support those security needs. So here's a little bit more digestible picture of how that is all going to work. And then, so you'll see through those security vestibules, you'll also see the refresh in the admin. We had to go through and replace a lot of the materials. As Rebecca mentioned up front, durability, maintainability is always sort of at the core of what we look at for school facilities. We know your maintenance budgets are limited, and we want to be good stewards of that. But we also want to make sure that these facilities are welcoming and sort of grounded in their place. So one of the things that came out of our work with the design advisory team was this concept of farm, forest, and sea. And so you'll start to see some of that grounded in the material palette, both here and then in some coming slides. So.
Thanks, Jeff. And to continue thinking and diving deeper into some of the scope, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the design considerations around the restrooms. As we were talking with folks about inclusive and accessible restrooms, there were a few key words that kept coming up as we were talking about those areas. There was a need for privacy, a need to make them accessible. We want to support health and hygiene, make sure we provide acoustic separation, and that we're always being mindful of supervision and maintenance. And so when we use the term inclusive design and accessible design, these are other things that are layered in there that are in our thought process as we're doing those designs. As we were looking at the restroom designs that are going to be accessible to the students during the school day, we wanted to make sure that we provided different types of restroom spaces throughout the building. And so the pink and the blue areas are gendered restroom areas that are getting reconfigured to meet those accessibility requirements, as well as providing privacy with the full height partitions that separate each of the toilet stalls. The green areas are all gender restrooms that are available with, again, full height partitions, and they are identified to have supervision for those spaces. We are also doing improvements to a few other restrooms throughout the space. The life skills area is getting an accessible restroom, but it's not available to the students throughout the school day, so I didn't add color to it. We're also doing work in the locker room spaces to make those areas accessible as well. But I wanted to highlight kind of where those all gender restrooms are and where the gendered restrooms are so that folks understand how those will be laid out within the high school and middle school building. As we start to look at the second floor, you see the similar gendered restrooms in the same corner that's stacked, as well as the all gender restrooms at the two corners. So what does that start to look like? As we look at kind of comparing your existing restrooms and the new plan, there's a couple things I want to draw your attention to. One is that we have 3 toilets here with larger stalls to make them accessible. That provides all the turnarounds that are required for today's codes for accessibility. We have a large sink, and we do not have a door on the space, and that is to respond to our supervision needs. And in the men's space, instead of having 2 toilets and a urinal, we now have 3 toilets, all with the full height partitions. Again, no door going down that space. So that provides that supervision for those restrooms. The all gender restrooms are designed with full height partitions. Doors are swinging out for safety. We have a shared sink area that has supervision. It looks very similar to the image that I showed you previously, so that you can see over the sink area. That woman with the yellow sweater is washing her hands in that image. One of the things you'll notice is that there's a window that's frosted up above the door that provides just a visual indicator is somebody in the restroom or not, because they have motion sensor lights. So there's a lot of layers of complexity into how those restrooms work. So the next thing I wanted to give you a little bit more detail about was to talk about what's happening on your building at the middle school, high school. Many people have commented, is the building going to be blue? And as we are upgrading the materials for that building, just thinking about durability, we are using some very durable materials on that building elevation. But those materials were inspired from a concept, much like we showed you for the interiors, but it's building off the concept of the forest. And so thinking about the texture of a forest and how it starts out very solid when you think about tree trunks, and as the branches go up towards the sky, they get finer. We applied a similar thinking process to how we worked with the materials on the exterior of the building. And so you'll see that the metal panel has more detail as it moves up further on the building height. It's also a way to break down the scale, particularly at the fly loft. So as we start looking in more detail at those buildings, you'll see what's going on in the building right now is a lot of brick veneer, very durable materials. We're very thoughtful about where you have your abuse, where rocks might fly, different things. It's a very rugged material that'll provide good longevity. Metal panels, a wonderful material because you don't need to come back and paint it. Stone veneer panel also has that enduring quality, so it's a maintenance. Nothing's maintenance free, but it's very low maintenance when you think about those materials. So those are the materials that are coming onto the building. I'll show you some additional views of that. So here's a view that shows how all those materials are coming together. You see the new covered entry going into the main entrance to the school. We have another covered entry over by the gym and the theater. There will be lights associated with those covered entries because right now the school is very dark as you're coming and going. And then you start to see a little bit of that texture on the fly loft that I was mentioning and how those different materials come together to break down the building form and give it character across. And then as we look into the courtyard as well is getting new materials on that space. As Jeff mentioned, this is a view into the commons where currently you've got a glass wall that is not enduring very well. And so we're replacing that with a window system down below with frames. And then up above, it'll have what we refer to as punched openings in a solid wall. And so that will provide that daylight coming into the space, but it'll be a much higher quality building system with structural connections to it. There will also be a glass overhead door so that students can flow freely from the common space directly into the courtyard area, replacing a lot of the failing tile and some of those other materials in the courtyard with things that will not require that similar kind of level of care. So a lot of excitement around that space, highly utilized. I'm going to let Jeff talk a little more about the elementary.
Yeah, so moving over to elementary school design and what does that scope look like? So the couple things going on over here on the site. We have the improvements to the parent queuing and drop off. So that's what you see up here in yellow at the top of the screen. We were able to find a way to add some additional queuing and some parking while still preserving some of the elements of the site, such as significant trees. And then the other major component on the site over there in blue is the playground, which hopefully many of you have been over there to see it. If it was a little bit lighter, we could take you on a little tour afterwards, but I won't steal all the construction team's thunder. So you'll see some photos here in a little bit if you haven't got to see that yet. And that was a great process during design as well. We worked closely with a user team over here at the elementary school to really understand what inclusive play meant. And we're very intentional about selecting equipment to make sure that it was inclusive for all the students. And yeah, I'll kind of reserve this for photos and construction. We won't steal all their thunder. But similar to this, the middle high school, we wanted to make sure that there was a secure vestibule at the elementary school here as well. So you'll see the same philosophy, whereas the current condition, there's direct entry into the building after you're buzzed in, but in the final configuration, you're directed into admin to check in for those safety and security reasons. In support of that as well, as a reconfiguration of the admin, there is some efficiencies in doing work in there while we're already working on those security vestibules. So there's a few additional components to that admin.
And to continue talking about the restroom areas, as we look at the restrooms at the elementary school, there is quite a bit of need, in particular for accessibility in this building. And so the pink and blue areas are the gendered restrooms that are available to the students, and they are all getting improvements to them. We are also doing new restrooms that are accessible for the nurse area and also for the staff. But as those are not on the main circulation paths, I didn't highlight those restrooms. But we want to make sure that accessibility is addressed at all of those locations. So to look a little bit more about what's going to be happening. So as we look at the existing restrooms, for the restroom that's actually just outside of this room, you'll notice that there's, like on the male side, there's a single toilet, and then there are 2 urinals. The women have 3 toilets. And what the new plan is the floor to ceiling partitions around those toilets, but it will be toilets on both the men's and the women's side. And the sinks will now be accessible right off of the hallway. We also removed the doors. This is part of the safety issues. And so now the doors, are just at the toilet stalls, not going into the room. Sight lines are managed, but it's similar to when you're at the airport or a lot of schools that we designed today. We try to remove those doors as much as we can. We find that most administrators prop them open anyway, so they can hear what's going on. So, and then to look specifically at the restrooms and other locations, again, for the boys and the girls restrooms, we did keep the urinals in the boys restrooms throughout the elementary school, but we did reduce the number of toilets. So currently there are 2 toilets, 2 urinals. We kept 2 urinals and 1 toilet in order to get the accessible toilets stall for the students, and the girls have 2 toilets and an accessible stall. So it is a reduction of toilets for the boys and the girls, but that is what we needed to do in order to meet accessibility requirements. And then we kept the sinks off the hallway, and that is pretty typical throughout the building. So as we look at the scopes that are happening throughout the building, Jeff walked us through what was happening at the administration area. The blue areas are the other toilet restrooms, and then there's quite a bit of mechanical upgrades. And we're all thrilled that the students have access to most of. They're still waiting, I think, some grass to grow, but for most of the playground area, which was part of that first phase. And then the extended drop-off area is the other exciting thing that'll be happening at the elementary school and is much needed. They'll talk more about when that scope of work is beginning to happen. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our contractors.
Thank you. So I wanted to give a little bit of backstory for us. We broke this project out of 2 different phases. We have a first phase was our envelope phase for the middle high school. We did that to really capitalize on this first summer worth of work. And then obviously we wanted to make sure we got the elementary school playground in this summer as well. So that was our first phase. And then our second phase really is the interior TI work. And then all of the civil work that's happening around, like Rebecca said, at the elementary school, the drop-off loop, the middle high school, think football field. So jumping in here. Obviously, you can all see where we started at the middle high school. We started in the admin wing and the classroom group up to the north of that. Some people probably questioned how long this process has taken. Just as Dr. Clifford mentioned, we did run into some unforeseen conditions that we wanted to bring up to code to make sure that the building lasted a good long time for you guys. So we've been working through demo, and now you can start to see some of the changes that are starting to happen.
Great. Yeah. So then throughout the summer, we kind of been moving forward on the exterior side on the C, what we're calling the C wing, which would be the most north side of the building. We've gone through and we've done structural upgrades, and we sheeted the building. Then when we painted it blue, essentially that's your waterproofing layer. So that's what we were trying to get ahead of for winter. And then on top of that, we had the green Z-gird attachments. What those are is that's where eventually we're going to be screwing our metal panel and our stone panel to it. Will have siding that's going through procurement stages. And so there's shop drawings, submittals, a lot of review time, and we're getting everything ready for when that material gets delivered. Just an overall rendering. And then rooftop work. We worked on that same C-wing. We're sequencing our rooftop work with our siding work. They tie in together when the siding comes up, roofing, parapet. So all that stuff ties together. So we're making sure to sequence those. As John said before, some of the complexities of the project is being able to tie in roofing, ties into siding. Then we also have interior renovations, which will have vent pipes and everything else coming up. So there's multiple things that we are juggling when he's putting his schedule together in the mastermind. Then interior renovations started in December this year. It's been fun to get in the building. So right now we're working in what was the old shop, doing demo work and prepping it for what is going to be storage in a classroom over there. And then locker rooms. We're working in the women's locker room and the men's locker room over by the main gym. And right now we're demoing out, and then as Rebecca and Jeff talked about before, we're doing interior renovations in there. phasing.
Thanks, TJ. Just to TJ's mastermind comment, this has been what we're going to review next is a series of coordination with Integris, Tom, Dr. Clifford, the principals. We come up with these ideas. Started, I don't know when we started, June, and they go, well, what about this? Let's move this over here. So go back to the drawing board, and all summer and fall, we've been working through with the team and coming up with these together, all of us. So really, this is our plan going forward. With innovation, we can do better always, and we'll be looking for those windows that we can exceed and do better, obviously.
Yes. What these plans were is this is how we coordinate with the school on where we're going to be. Where do we see we're going to be in the next, I labeled in the trimesters, spring, summer, fall. So it helps us coordinate with them and coordinate move in, move out dates. Gives a big picture view.
Yes. We call it Area C is currently work in progress. With the phase 2 work, we've started in the admin with the demo just last few weeks. We're continuing to start the demo of this was a lot of this windows. You'll see if you drive by, I'm not supposed to touch that. You'll see if you drive by, you see the windows being installed. Inside, we're also working too at this point. Also, like TJ mentioned, the yellow reflects the work that we're doing, and also the green. So this is spring work. Blue, that's okay. Just touch on blue real quick. That's a school move out that we're working through with the principals and the staff. So up and coming work. So spring, summer, really after our May 20th date, I think I'm getting right, hopefully. This is the upcoming work with the field. And then top of the page there on the left slide is the bus loop that's going to be changed from its current state. We also have that red little line there. That's some upgrade with the sidewalks and access to the school. Okay, so summer 26, a lot of work in summer 26, lots to do, both places. But so really the green is their new construction areas. Thank you. Oh, came back on.
Testing.
I got it. And the orange is the construction ending this trimester. So kind of working through the school in different phases. Obviously, like we talked about, coordinating over and over again to get to this state. This was fall 26. This is what fall looks like. Kind of be working in here in these locker rooms as you've seen in the previous slides. Then we move over to those locker rooms. And same up in the admin, working on this summer, and then jumping over into the temp admin August. Okay, so spring 27, another change, still working in the locker rooms over there, but and then moving into the commons that you guys were previously talking about, that's the green area. You can see there's a lot of moving parts, pieces, and then we'll get to the elementary in a moment. Summer again, 27, more these orange areas, in case you're wondering, a lot of this reflects some of the mechanical work that was previously discussed in these classrooms. And then fall 27, really targeting our fall 27 completion. Be a big, great milestone for us and that's what we're on track to hit. Elementary. Okay, let's talk about the elementary real quick. So a couple things. Okay. This summer, we worked pretty much around all summer getting the Robina structure in and the blue one. But those are great structures, as we talked about earlier. was a lot of work, but we got it in and kids are super happy. Yeah. I think I heard them when they opened it up. I was at the middle high school and I think I heard them. But here they are. So yeah, great structures, huge 3,200-pound salmon. So they were. Yeah, everybody was been so accommodating. It's been great. On to phase 2 work interior wise. This is kind of spring 2026 up and coming, summer also. So a lot of this reflects mechanical work. The restrooms 184, 185, and 134, 135. And then this also reflects some of the mezzanine work with the mechanical that we'll be doing also. And summer, obviously, both places during summer, very busy. We kind of finishing up on the other 2 restrooms, working into building temp barricades, and starting the construction in the administration and teacher lounge. Then the other restrooms, we kind of jump over to those ones. And then continued with the mezzanine work and the mechanical up in the mezzanine. The mechanical work also includes in the classrooms too. And that's why you'll see these ones highlighted. So soon, this spring, we are targeting the drop off, which is the big green awesomeness up there. We'll be starting that. You'll see fencing going up potentially as soon as March. We want to start that sooner so that when we coordinated with the elementary principals, they'd like to have that turned over. So for schools to start, that's why we're starting that sooner. And then after school gets out, we'll start the green squiggly lines. And then the other dots of green are the improvement in the lighting in the parking lot. Okay, fall 26, still working in the yellow areas and some of the restrooms. So we've coordinated just how are we going to get there, you may ask, is we've coordinated pathways for our workers and temp barricades so that we eliminate as much as we can the interaction with the students and the faculty to just do our work. That's it. Nope, there you go. There's a tribute to our kickoff. And so, yeah, that was a great day. Of course, it was really warm too and sunny. Soon.
Yeah, we want to go ahead and open it up for questions, either design or construction.
Well, I have a series of questions from Director Jackson. Before I get into that, I do want to just note that as the parent of an elementary schooler, I'm very happy to see the parking out here coming this spring and summer. So my child will get 1 year of me being able to park there before we're moving on. So there were a couple of questions that Director Jackson brought up that some of them will be for you, some of them will be for you. What has the staff and student experience been in terms of managing learning in a construction environment? And have any adjustments been made to the schedule, i.e. what happens during breaks versus during school to adapt to their needs and input? It sounds like you've been working on that constantly based on what you were saying, but.
Yeah, we have, the team has done a really good job of coordinating with the principals. And I think there's a lot of adjustments that have to happen on the fly. I'll let John talk a little bit about some of those, but we all know that construction we try to make it as non-impactful as possible, but it is construction. And we do have those times where we have to be loud. And we do definitely work with the schools to make sure that we're giving them the information they need to know that it's loud. And I know John, like I said, has implemented a few policies in place to help limit that.
So one thing we've done is we started before school, some of the noisy work. It's pretty common. I had some hospital experience also, and that was pretty common to do. So just get that out of the way so it's less impactful to the environment for the kids and staff, obviously. Also after shift hours, we'll be working those. And then coordinating that with the principals and so forth. Some of the other things we've implemented through the summer were spotters with the equipment. We have spotters with the equipment that has potential blind spots. Obviously, students and faculty safety is highest priority for me, and obviously being the schedule, but that is very important to me. And
Thank you. If a question touches on any of the principal building stuff, please feel free to jump in also, but thank you.
Green is good. Thank you, Kayla. I just want to reiterate and thank John has been an incredible communicator. He will text me. You have some of those during construction, the one-offs. We got this equipment making a loud noise from this time. We'll notify the classroom that it might affect a noise if there's a move possible, but usually that's really temporary. It's not constant. So I appreciate that. And I think we have an event tomorrow morning.
yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and again, we had a staff meeting today and just let all staff know that there will be some loud sounds between 6:30 and 6 a.m. and 7:30, and then in the afternoon. So just, again, I appreciate the communication. It's important for us to communicate with our staff. Hey, this is happening. So that it's important for our staff to let the students know, hey, this is what's happening, and everybody's in the loop. So I appreciate that, John.
Well, and I expect that some of this comes from both Director Jackson and I being in that high school when the last major construction was done as students. So having that sensitivity to remembering some of those disruptions and how it was worked around, I expect that's where part of this was coming from.
And our staff has been incredible. First meeting of the year, we talked about being flexible. You never know what's going to happen. Timelines change. And again, really appreciate their flexibility, but also our students. I think I shared some data, and they're highly resilient, and I appreciate that too.
Thank you. The next one from Director Jackson is, when it comes to landscaping and natural areas, how is our planned conversation, going back to the planning committee that she and I were a part of, how is our planned conversation to lower maintenance, climate resilient, and native landscaping going? Am I correct in understanding that these three priorities are being considered in regards to landscaping?
Yes, that is correct. Where we are looking at adding landscaping, those are definitely at the forefront of the scope that's being proposed.
Thank you. Two more. Has there been any further discussion of using biological systems, i.e. manufactured wetlands, to handle runoff from our new sports field? What might our students learn from such an approach? Life sciences meet infrastructure, and how might it help address our climate goals?
Do you want to? You want to take it, John?
Green is good. Breaking news. Talk about timing. Are either of you on the ecology club? No. So Mr. Robbie, our incredible ag teacher and also our ecology club advisor, proposed to me today. I hate calling it the freshman pond because there's some traditional negative things, but the retention pond out by our softball field, he asked if the ecology club could go in. There's a lot of invasive plants such as scotch broom, blackberry bushes, things like that, and plant native, obviously native plants, but also that will help with filtration. So I think that's really cool that our club students are going to be a part of that. So they're going to take ownership of that area. And I haven't talked to our head of maintenance yet or anybody, but we'll talk about that. Oh, you did talk to Seth. Your idea. I didn't say it was my idea. I did not take credit for that. But I think you talk about perfect timing. I thought that's a great idea.
So with specific regard to the fields, as I talked earlier, we spent a lot of time examining what the best approach for this project is. So while we don't necessarily have open exposed stormwater treatment, as the question asks, we definitely wanted to make sure that stormwater was treated appropriately and an underground system was determined to be the best outcome for that.
I do remember those discussions from the big meeting in here. So thank you
Yeah.
for the reminder on that. Last one from Director Jackson was, will there be any plant salvage opportunities or calls for volunteers to take living plants that are being removed versus just trashing the outdated landscaping?
There will be. There is an opportunity at the front of the school, and we let folks know, but the time to get that stuff out was very limited. So we let them know it was there and they needed to get it out before it was going to be moved. I don't know if anyone actually took us up on that offer, but as we identify stuff that we're going to have to remove, with enough lead time, we'll try to let folks know that this bush has to be removed. If someone wants it, you have X amount of time, and then we'll remove it for them.
Excellent. Thank you. I do recall a number of members of the community getting very excited about some of the flooring from the gym when that was taken out. So that is everything that I have from Director Jackson. Thank you for covering that. Anything else from the board?
Apologies. I don't know who to address this to. Actually, let me start just with some thank you. I just really appreciate this update. It's obvious that the work started a long time ago with planning and listening, and I can see the consistency as it's flowed through to design and build. So I just really appreciate that. So my question is about the remaining work, about the schedule and any risks or unknowns, just like what could go wrong? How confident are we about the remaining work staying on schedule and on budget? And are there any assumptions baked into that aren't called out as such?
So I'll talk to the budget side of things. I'll let John talk about the schedule side of things. When we put together our GMP, we really talked internally between Integris, Tom with Parametrics, and the district about appropriate allowances to hold for items that we thought were risk within the project. So whether we held an allowance for it or we had held a contingency bucket to cover those things, either on the owner, or excuse me, on the construction side or on the owner's side, we were really diligent about talking through those items and what we thought were going to be issues coming up. Obviously, we cannot plan for everything. So, but I feel that we have, as a project whole and a budget whole, that we will be able to accomplish what we need to within the budget that we have as the total project.
Thank you, Reagan. For the schedule, we have the GMP schedule for phase 2. We're currently holding that completion date. To the risk point, with the renovation, there is a risk with what we discover daily. I literally work on the schedule pretty much every day or every other day to input data, adjust, and ideally come up with an innovative process if there is an impact. We're constantly working through different impacts and a mediation to excel the schedule and that timeline that we currently have. So does that answer all the questions?
Yeah, thank you. And the last thing I want to point out, when I'm in these buildings, sometimes I forget that they're like also an active construction zone, because when I look around, I just see learning as usual. And I'm just so impressed that you all are able to do the volume of work that you're doing with such a minimal amount of disruption. I really appreciate that.
And in particular with another live construction site next door at the pool, that I'm sure y'all are fighting about who gets to use the road at certain times.
As long as he keeps it clean, I'm not fighting with him.
Anything else from our students or, okay, anything else from anyone in the room? Let's get a mic.
Oh boy. All right, couple questions. Giving some little historical background. The committee that you guys keep referencing, as far as the planning committee, please notice there was only one community member on there, which was kind of concerning. And I went to the bond committee's workshops, Q&As. There wasn't a lot of conversations around specifics, including that of the plans. I had someone in the community reach out to me, give me the plans. The bathroom layouts look very different than the plans that was seen up at Island County that are permitting. So I'm wondering, have those been fully permitted? Are they still in process? That's my first question. I have about 12.
Yes, the plans have been fully permitted.
Okay. I can't pull it up on my phone because of the wonderful Wi-Fi here. But the templates around the bathrooms, I think one of the things was someone said, oh, the names, the naming of the bathrooms was not completed when it was sent up to permitting. I guess what's more concerning is when the students came in on the first day of school, they found out about a gender neutral bathroom. That was a little bit of a shock. Parents as well. I'm all for modernization. One thing I am thrilled to see is the open concept of the gender neutral bathrooms because that was not displayed in the blueprints. So that's a little bit of a concern. My question is this normal that you have more gender neutral bathrooms than gender specific bathrooms?
I want to clarify that some of the all gender bathrooms are single bathrooms. So there's only 2 bathrooms that are multi-stall that are all gender. So there are actually more multi-stall gendered bathrooms than all gender bathrooms. But there were lots of green on there because we have single bathrooms where only one person can go in, and it's a singleton bathroom.
How many of those gender neutral bathrooms are single stall and how many are multiple stalls?
I think it's important that we clarify when you say stall, because
You have
the
one toilet in a room and multiple
toilet
toilets.
in a room, but a room is different than a stall, because they have floor to height partitions, floor to ceiling partitions.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess my original question, is it normal that there's more gender neutral single stall, multiple stall bathrooms than there are gender specific, meaning boys and girls?
I would question the use of the term normal. We are at a when we design educational facilities, we work with each of the communities to determine what is the right distribution of which restrooms are going to be gendered and which ones are going to be available to anyone who needs to use it. And that is something that is a discussion within each community. So I wouldn't say that there is a normal that is ubiquitous amongst design approaches.
That would be great if the community was part of that conversation. We have a student population, 0.02 identifies as X population, so non-binary. When asked why this discussion was not held at any of the Q&As for the construction bond, actually one of the board members said the reason was because nobody asked. I don't think our community had any inkling that this was even a concept. We were not part of that conversation. Let me make it very clear. There have been signatures collected around this concept. We were not part of the conversation. I wish we would have been. I would have, and I think most districts are. Most districts are part of this conversation. We were not. So when you have a population of 0.02 of your student body that identifies X, do you think the current plan that you just showed up on that screen is a little overkill?
I'd like to address a little bit there. The single user bathrooms changed over to all gender in 2021, I believe. I'm not sure on that, but well before this bond process, because at a certain degree, it simply does not matter what the sign on there when only one person is allowed to go in there. It's the same as at home, on an airplane, many public facilities. So those have been in place for years, and there was public discussion at a board meeting when that happened. There was at least one workshop, I believe. It might have just been one workshop and one business meeting. I know because I've seen those videos recently.
I'd also like to add that one of the first slides Rebecca showed was the values. That was very early on. I've seen that slide probably at 5 different meetings. It says inclusive environments, including inclusive bathrooms. So we've been talking about this in open public meetings for years. This should not come as a surprise to anybody.
And I would also like to note that the all gender bathrooms don't only serve those who are non-binary in particular. Anyone can use them. And that means that they don't have students and staff or whoever is going to use them do not have to go as far as they might have to find a single gender bathroom.
Okay, let me reframe my question then.
Just a moment.
I think we need to remember something else. Regardless of gender, we have students that want privacy. Students who aren't comfortable, regardless of gender, who want privacy and don't want to use a traditional bathroom. That's why these single stall bathrooms, single room bathrooms are perfect. And it's what our students want. It's not about gender. It's about all of our students. And that is probably the primary reason that we're doing this.
Thank you.
Additionally, there's staff that would have to come downstairs in a 5-minute passing period or need someone to cover their class so they can come downstairs, because at this moment they have access to one staff bathroom. So these single room bathrooms allow them to use a bathroom within steps from their classroom.
Thank you. Question I have, is there any requirements on construction nowadays for making sure you have a bathroom for every student, no matter what they identify as? Is there a minimum requirement? Is there per pupil, anything in construction process? I'm just trying to get some straight answers.
So the building code, just to get into the weeds a little bit, because I think that's what we're doing. The building code does have a number of restrooms required per square footage in a facility like this. And the way that the building code handles inclusive restrooms is you still total it as if you would gendered restroom facilities. And as long as the total number of restrooms that would be required for gendered facilities is the same in an inclusive restroom environment, then it still meets the building code. So it's essentially, it's calculated the same. It's just adding the men's and the women's facilities together to not reduce the total number of fixtures, which we have complied with in the renovation as we looked at this.
Okay, thank you for that. What would be great, and what I've been asking for almost a year now, I think, would it be possible for the plans to be released to the public? I mean, a community member went to the Island County to get it because the board kept saying the plans are not going to be completed till spring. We're in January, and I'm pretty sure they're completed.
This presentation has the plans right there. So I think what there's a difference between different permitting, and I think that what we said about the illustration was that it was a different permit. Is for fixtures. The plan here is what is the plan. And it still has the same number of restrooms. It just wasn't labeled.
And the design was different. The layout of the bathrooms.
Can you please speak to the difference between?
Unfortunately, I don't know what you're looking at to say it was different from one to another. So I would need to see what you were referencing versus what we have shown. But we need to submit plans to get building permit approval for Absher to do their construction. They have a process. If for some reason they have found conditions or something needs to change, they work with the building inspectors to make sure that they're compliant. So I don't know if you want to speak any further about how things, and at the end of the project, they document any changes, and that becomes record drawings that the district has for maintenance that reflects anything that might have changed for whatever reason. So.
Well, my frustration and the reason for my many questions is we've gotten no answers. Myself have asked for, when can we see the blueprints? When can we see the layout? What does the bathrooms look like? When a community member has to go up to Island County to get those answers, the community was not involved in the conversation. That's very clear sign. You can move on if you want, but this is over a year. And I've gone to all the bond meetings. And it's really unfortunate that the community was not a part of this conversation. And it really split a lot of elements within the community and the district and the students. A lot of students left the first day of school a little bit beside themselves. It's just a new concept, and shoving it down people's throats is not a way to introduce a new concept. So thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Wendy, I would just like to capture that, you have been sharing a specific portion of the community's input, but it is not reflective of the majority of the community. And I understand that you disagree with that. And I understand that you continue to come to the meetings to voice that disagreement and to say that there are these community members that we are not listening to that have not been included in this conversation. So far, we have not met any of them. And I understand that there is a petition going around that would like us to change the plans. I think we have been very clear that we have heard you, and the answer is no. And so I understand you feel like you haven't been heard in that. I understand that there are some community members who feel like they haven't been heard in that. At the end of the day, we are updating a building to last for the next so many decades. And as a human who has had to wait in line for gendered restrooms, watching the other gendered restroom have no line, I would love to have a restroom that I can walk into. And I don't think that our students are going to be impacted negatively in that way. I know that my child will choose whatever restroom has an open toilet at the time. And I know that lots of students will choose an open restroom with a toilet at a time. As a former teacher who has had to walk across a building in a 4-minute passing period to try and wait in a line for a restroom and be late going back to my classroom, I would appreciate, as a staff member, having a toilet that I can access. I also want to be really mindful that there are a huge number of projects that the bond professionals are covering, and they are not just limited to restrooms, but they also include other updates. And I heard you say that you have 12 questions. So far, they have all been about the restrooms. And I'd like to be mindful of people's time and consider if there are other areas of the bond that people would like to have questions. And if there's time, if we could come back to the bathroom questions.
And just to clarify, we got over 300 signatures and there's 1,100 students in the district. That's a third of the people that's not happy. It's not a small percentage.
And not all of the signatures have students in the district.
It's still a community, but if you want to dismiss it, that's fine. I'll let other people ask questions.
Well, and I'd also like to, please.
Yeah. I would just like to say from a student perspective, I'd seen some plans. I know they weren't necessarily blueprints, but they were general plans of the layout from what the bond would look like in completion. And I would just like to say, speaking as I think the majority of the student body was very aware that there would be gender neutral bathrooms introduced into this plan. And I would just like to say, I don't know if there was shock on the first day of school, none that I saw. I don't know what perspective, regardless of your perspective on gender neutral bathrooms, everyone was aware of them coming into school that day. And I don't think there was very much surprise. Once again, perspective depends on that. But I would just like to say, I think students have been pretty aware of the plans from early on.
I also think, like, going off of that, gender neutral bathrooms don't just benefit non-binary people, they benefit everyone. And so I think by calling out like 0.02% of students, I think that that's kind of a false narrative, that it only benefits 0.02% of students and that it genuinely benefits everyone. And so I think that it's kind of a null point.
I know you've got a couple more questions. And Director Johnson is raising her hand and wanted to chime in. So Director Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, let me turn my volume up. Let's see if that helps. Can you hear me now?
I think it's our volume. Give us just a moment.
Okay.
In the meantime, Director Johnson, I've got one question from the Q&A on Zoom, so I'm going to put that out there because it is a direct question for the team here. And then we'll get back to you in just a moment. This is from Betsy Hofius, staff member and community member. Is there anything being done to improve navigation at the middle school, high school? It has always been a very disorienting building.
Yes, we are. We have been working closely with the school leadership to identify different strategies to improve navigation and also different identities for the middle school areas and the high school areas. And so we've been working with a lot of different strategies to integrate that in. I don't know if you had anything else you want to add.
A lot of it will be wayfinding, a lot of nice signage, and then some differentiation in the common spaces with that stairwell as well. And then those main entrance points have some really nice definition points so that it'll be a more clear understanding of where a high school student versus a middle school student might get dropped off or have access to.
Thank you. Director Johnson, would you give it a try again? You're muted at the moment.
Thanks. My dog was having feelings. Thank you. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight in person. I really want to thank our panel of experts for offering that amazing report. And I am definitely a +1 with seeing the flow from the very beginnings of the project to where we are now to where we're going. So I deeply appreciate that. I also want to give +1 to both Director Downs and our student representatives. My feelings are that continued conversations around the restrooms, their configurations, who they're for, are moot at this point. The plans are moving forward. Everyone has a place to pee. More people have a place to go to the bathroom that is more to their liking and more in their control. And we all use facilities, and we will all continue to use facilities. And hopefully as we move forward as both a school district and a community, we will continue to recognize that universal design lifts all boats and make sure that everyone has what they need in order to contribute in their day and feel comfortable in their day. And so I just want to throw that out there, that I feel like we've been talking about bathrooms for a real long time now. But the question has been asked and answered. And that is all I will say about that. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. I'll go back then to, are there more community questions? Let's get you.
Okay. So this is not a question. This is just a compliment from a community member, a tax-paying community member. So I always have general concerns about how's the tax money being used, and is it being used efficiently and the way that it should be used. I'm also a former educator, a trained person, and I'm always concerned about the educational environment. And I had concerns, of course, about construction going on during, the school day. And this presentation has really been wonderful, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of alleviating any concerns that I had in any of those areas. So some kind of prize to John so far on staying on track, or he's not the only one who deserves that, I'm sure. But kudos to all for how the project is going at the present time. I love the coordination that I'm hearing between the school staff and the construction and design people. Very impressive.
Could you share your name and general location, please?
Press this. Tom Walker Langley.
Thank you. Just for Ms. McCarr's later.
Hi, I'm Val. I'm staff. You spoke about some mechanical work in this building and then in the classrooms. Can you elaborate just a bit on what that entails?
Yes. So in the classrooms, we put a split system in with heating and AC, and they're essentially be in the middle. So we'll be working in those classrooms primarily during the summer, this building and the other building, installing those new systems. It also incorporates some of the mechanical just across the hall here, a large mechanical upgrade, and upgrade into the back there, the old chiller, That's old. And so we'll be tying into some of those systems or replacing that system. Yeah. Heating and cooling.
Thank you.
Yes. That everything, or is there more? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are working through areas of what needs to be moved with the principals and kind of fine tuning that over the next 4 to 5 weeks. So yes.
I think our plan at this point is to do a walkthrough with the team in early February. And then once we have that figured out a little bit more, we'll be meeting with the staff and giving a timeline. Absolutely. I just want to add my thanks. You all are wonderful to work with, and we're just so appreciative of the partnership. So thank you.
Do we have any other community comments or questions?
All right. So I've been told that if people are not here, their voice is not important, and that you guys have heard my questions and the answer has been given, which is unfortunate. As far as the bathrooms moving forward, I can speak to the kiddos I know. Is there going to be conversation around I understand there's a monitoring system. Is this cameras? I work in behavioral health. So let me just tell you, one of the big reasons is not the whole gender neutral thing. I don't have a problem with that. I have family members. But when my clients tell me they are in crisis, they are in the bathroom. So if we move the gender neutral issue aside, they are in the bathroom when they're in mental crisis. The concept is we want to keep our students on campus. You are creating an environment by this concept of gender neutral where a young lady will not want to go in the bathroom because there may be someone of another gender, whatever they identify as. You are removing a safe space. And then I hear, don't worry, from floor to ceiling, they're protected. Unfortunately, we cannot gain access to that child when they are in mental health crisis. They might be secured in that mental health crisis, but we cannot get to them. So you are actually creating an issue. Everyone says, oh, you guys, you have a problem with people of different gender. I don't have a problem. People that come in my office, age 10 and up, say, when I had this issue, I went to the bathroom. You are now taking that safe space away from them, bringing this gender neutral concept in there. You may not see it. That's fine because you don't work in the behavioral profession. I'm not saying that you don't know anything. This is what I hear from my clients. And I work with students from Oak Harbor District, Central District, Coopville. And this is what I hear. So it absolutely makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck when I hear these students are going to be in a floor to ceiling enclosed stall. Oh, that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. I don't know if there's going to be training where we can like clip a hinge or something so we can have access to it. I don't know if you've ever come upon a student that's slicing their wrist. They're not going to open the door for you. I can tell you that. So that's my issue right there is the kiddos I work with that are dealing with that. How do you plan on solving that?
I fully expect that staff will have keys to those at need.
Is that true?
Two things. I want to clarify that right now, when students are in stalls, if they are having a mental health crisis, we still have to open those stalls to get into there. We don't crawl under the stall to get to them. So I just want to be clear that regardless if it's floor to ceiling or not, we still have to get into stalls, and we do now and we will in the future.
How?
We will have access. That is part of our design process.
And specifically, that is why the doors swing out as well. So the administrative team always will have the ability to open them.
And there will still be gendered bathrooms on each floor. And these will provide more safe places, not fewer, because they will be able to find privacy rather than being in a larger containment area. I hear the concerns, and I believe that they're concerns that are shared by the vast majority of people here. In my view, this is a step forward in each of those categories, not a step backward. I am also very confident in the knowledge and understanding of the professionals who design and build and plan for these, to have the expertise in health and safety for people and students in particular, because they work in this field, to know what has been proven safe and proven effective in other schools.
And as a human who does work in behavioral health, who does have a background in working with students with high levels of mental health needs in far more restrictive settings than school districts, but also in school districts, I can assure you that whether or not a restroom door goes floor to ceiling, or it's a stall, or whatever it is, that doesn't change the response from the team to a student who is in crisis or who is escalated. And those situations do at times occur in restrooms. Sometimes they are single stall or single room restrooms, and sometimes they are in gendered restrooms. And I have responded to both. And there are pathways of support that you can provide to students that staff can be trained in that support them in all of those locations.
Earlier in one meeting, I did some research on the gender bathrooms, and the National Association of Architects have highly recommended the floor-to-ceiling stalls. Many school districts across the whole country have installed floor-to-ceiling stalls. The reason being that in the old form of stalls, you would find girls in the girls' bathroom with a telephone shooting something over the top of the stall. They'd stand on the toilet and shoot their phone over, or they'd put their phone underneath, and then the other kids' pictures would end up on the internet. And so you had a few kids committing suicide. What you're doing is absolutely correct.
I believe we've gone over the restrooms quite a large degree. Are there comments or questions on other topics? Oh, monitoring.
What it does is it allows us, we have cameras all over the school. So what it does is it gives us a more clear view of who's entering or exiting, timestamps, because if a student walks into a gender bathroom, all I know is that they walked in. Now having access to those views, they're in that second stall right there. It's much more, it's a lot more ability to see who and what versus they're in said bathroom. They're in that stall, they're in that exact space. It gives us more ability to get closer to that as well.
Sorry for the near interruption. Just to be clear, these are not in the rooms. They're in the hallways looking into the shared common areas that will be open in front of the doors to the toilet rooms. Just wanted to address that before that became an issue also.
It was the exact picture that was put up there. So there is no doors. There is a half area where the sinks are, and you can see all of the floor-to-ceiling doors and stalls.
Are there any questions or comments on items beyond the restrooms?
For folks to know, that restroom picture that we shared is from Finn Hill Middle School in Lake Washington. If anybody wanted to ask any educators there what their experience is.
Thank you.
I used to work there, not at Finn Hill. I was at Rose Hill, but yeah.
I'd just like to bring this back around and ask, if you have one, what is your favorite part of this project that you're working on? It might be the playground, might be the design of the outside courtyard, whatever it is. Just what's your favorite part of the project that you're working on as we're closing down?
I'm excited. The people. Yeah, I know. I had you from hello. No, I it's just being over here, like just like kind of being around other people. It's just an awesome community, and my kids probably want to move here because they love the pizza down the road. They love everything about this place. So, and it's just great.
They should catch a movie sometime.
Probably have.
Yeah, I would reflect what John says. I'm from middle nowhere, Pennsylvania, moved here 6 years ago, 7 years ago now. And I walk in the park midday every day, be back behind the trailers and run into community members. We talk all the time. The one lady, her son, can't remember his name, maybe David, he's a math teacher in the portables. And turns out that she was born and grew up 45 minutes from my hometown in Pennsylvania. That was really cool. Yeah, really nice lady. But yeah, I mean, the community kind of just brings me back to where I grew up, and I love it. But the job, kind of what we're like, what might make it seem difficult. Honestly, I think that's what makes it the most fun. It's not easy. Just keep moving forward.
I like two things that I really enjoy about this project. I think that most of us understand in this time of the economy, it's very, very hard to pass a bond. And what I really enjoy about doing schools is being a good steward of bond money, and what we can do to give as much as possible back to the district, and be good stewards of the money. And I think that the team that we have, whether it's the construction, the principals, Paul, Dr. Clifford, Integris, Tom, are really all looking out for that for the district. And it's really refreshing to be on a team that helps support each other to get that done. So for me, that's probably my favorite part about the project. It's a challenging project, remodels are, but we work through it as a team, and find solutions. These guys every day come to work with creative solutions. And again, just try to make sure that the project is moving forward. So that's what I like about it.
Building towers is cool, but it's not fun. It's a manufacturing plant, and this is definitely not that.
I have the benefit of the perspective having worked with your community since before the bond. And I think one of the things that's, there's multiple touch points and projects that really sing to me. But for this community in particular, it came from somebody in this room when the bond passed, and we showed a perspective. I think it was that perspective of the middle school and the high school. And this individual said, I have waited decades to see this building transformed. I can't believe that we are finally going to get the school that this community deserves. So I'm excited to walk in those doors.
So this area has always kind of been a special place for me. I've been coming up here since I was 5 years old. Now I'm taking my kids here, the second generation. I proposed to my wife out there on Double Bluff. So this is, even before I started working out here, this has always kind of had a special place in my heart. But I didn't really get to know the community until I started working out here. So I could think back to the community meeting. I think I had asked the question of, is South Woodby just kind of a line in the district, or is it its own community? And folks in the room could point me to the telephone box that defines what this is and what this community is like. So I guess this has really sort of deepened my understanding of a place that was already special to me. And I've really, to reflect John's comment about the people in the community, same for me.
So Tom and John, just let us know when you want to buy a house and we'll find you a good person. Because it sounds like the two of you are moving.
We've got a great school ready for your kids.
I guess I'm the last one. I guess as a representative of the district, I just want to reiterate what you've already heard, but my perspective. And after working on, several similar projects, school projects, this is a pretty exceptional team. We've had the benefit of being able to work together before design was completed, which is a real benefit, particularly on a renovation project with these challenges. But I don't think you're going to find a better and more dedicated team if that wasn't already obvious to you. I think we're all pretty lucky to be part of this project. It's an exceptional place and community and district.
And before Brooke, you move forward, Gwendy, I also just want to recognize you do have more questions, and I know that we don't have time or capacity tonight for those, but I would invite you to share them with Dr. Clifford, and I'm sure that she will work to get answers from the people who can speak to those.
Anything else before we? Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. This meeting is adjourned.